They went down the hill.
He might be running late, though.
Yeah.
Wonder if we should put his mic up.
It's 4:02 on Monday, February 10th, 2025, and I call this council meeting study session to order. I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and a reminder that there is no public comment in the study session. For the record, please note that the mayor is not here, and Councilmember White are absent from the meeting this afternoon, or this evening, however you want to look at that. And please, I would like you to stand and join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have, I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce we have our director, this is so bad, yeah, Robeck and, oh my gosh. Yeah, and Director Madden and the chief. And we only have two items on the agenda, and for the first one, it's item 3A, capital project updates, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Director Madden.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Our team is excited to share our progress that we made on a variety of different projects in 2024. Today, to help me present the slideshow is Val Buzinoff. Val joined us, Council approved an additional position for Public Works in 2024. That position was a project management position that would focus on city projects and also lend a hand to myself in administering large public works projects with contractors. Val joined our team in February 20th of 2024, so he is quickly approaching his year mark, and his impact was immediately felt with our team. So without further ado, I will let Val start our slideshow, and this, the majority of these first projects are all projects that he managed in-house.
Good afternoon. My name is Val Buzinoff. I am a Public Works Project Manager. As Dustin introduced me, I will talk about projects we've completed last year in Public Works Department. So let's start. So wayfinding signs or welcome signs, we've installed 3 signs. You probably noticed them around the city, kind of on the border. Those are 3 pictures of the signs. So earlier in 2024, there was a lean-to installed at or covered storage at the PD department. So yeah, we've done regrading and improved the kind of walking path, and I think PD takes advantage of that improvement. So then we did a 19th Avenue sidewalk, kind of just north of a big intersection of the school, and so each slide, or most of slides, have highlights of what we've achieved, and you're welcome to read those. So there was about 340 feet of sidewalk installation and other improvements. That's more pictures of that sidewalk and some pictures in progress and before. Another sidewalk was 23rd Avenue. We had the same contractor who did the frontage improvements for the plot project, and so he also did our sidewalk. We widened the road and installed a sidewalk. Iconic place. And so we've replaced 4 garage doors I think pictures talks for itself. So,
We did additional insulation for the shop on those two doors to the right. Also, we put in lights or windows in the top, which allows additional daylight for the workout facility and for the shop. So those were significant improvements to the existing conditions.
so a big project was MAC renovation. We had several phases. So one of the phases were to replace ceiling. We replaced reflected ceiling tiles. Okay, picture shows that. And we did interior painting. We painted all the walls and trim, millwork. Then we did floor replacement. This picture shows the lobby, kind of before, in the middle, and after work. So yeah, those are walk-off tiles, and they're kind of like carpet tiles, but they're meant for, they're waterproofed. So it has little thing that sticks out, kind of when you walk, it, washes your shoes or wipes your shoes off. So, and they're waterproofed, so they're easy to replace. If one goes bad, you can easily unglue and, replace it.
So you'll see it now that we've set it, but there's two different types of carpet there. They look the same. This entryway is that walk-off that Val spoke to that helps clean the shoes. It's waterproof. There's also a small section of that in the room that we used to refer to as the red room. It's just a way to keep the overall carpet tile in a better condition. It's sturdier, so we put that at the entryways.
And we don't need rag. So hardwood flooring, we refinished that, preserved original white oak. So we refinished that, and then we also replaced 3 accordion walls, the 2 bigger ones and one at the kitchen. They're white, modernish, and match the trim.
And we removed one, correct?
Yes, and we also removed the one that, the left picture, the bigger picture shows 2 flags. So that's where it used to be, and so yeah, those got removed. Also replaced the fans, ceiling fans, modern looking, and I think everyone likes it. Mac chairs, we had 160 metal chairs, and there kind of was mix match, and so we replaced with all similar 160 folding chairs, and we also purchased 3 carts, I think 1 bigger and 2 smaller. They're easy to move, and the chairs are light and slightly taller and wider. I think they're rated for almost 1,000 pounds. So. Okay. Next to the men's bathroom, there is a utility closet where we replaced 2 electrical panels, brought everything to current standard, and removed any fire hazards. Was right time to do it. Also, tennis court or sport court, we replaced the lights. It was old lights, and now it's LED, more efficient, and they're more focused on the actual court.
That should help with some of the light screening that we've talked about in the past.
So next to the court, we also installed a court slab and added bench as well as a bike rack. Okay. So around the city, we identified 7 sidewalk. Well, there is more, obviously, but we kind of selected 6 that were in urgent needs to be replaced. So that's one, and there's other pictures. So that's the one through the Triangle Park. PD reception desk. We've added one on the left. It shows little wall-mounted desk. Then, just before summer, we did a big renovation for the baseball field. So there was a lot of, valleys, and so everything got, improved, and also we got, we got rid of moles, or took care of moles. They were causing some problems.
You probably noticed at Milton Days this year, there wasn't as many undulations in the level of walking. And so you were able to reduce trip hazards. We worked with 2 different contractors to get rid of the moles. And then we did, I don't have the yardage in front of us, but a significant amount of topsoil and then hydroseed.
Okay. So then on the Earth Day, we did teamwork, beautification. So we planted some bushes and shrubs. Olympic View Park, the playground had some issues, so it took us a while to find who was the original installer. We finally found it, and they sent us replacement parts. So, and some features that were missing, so like that little rope, it was missing from there. So we reinstalled that.
We did some leveling on the sidewalk around the outside.
That's right. Yeah. Kind of on the background, you can see there's a sidewalk. So yeah, one of the sections were sinking, so we've pumped in a leveling foam and leveled it. Interurban Trail, and I think it was done in the summer, early summer, so that we used that asphalt zipper, and I think they did a great job. So I don't know if you want to mention something.
Yeah, that was a fun project. You can see that picture in the bottom right. There was a lot of trip hazards, a lot of root intrusion, and it's expensive because of all of the sewer lids and manholes that you'll find in that small section. And so it was cost prohibitive, which is why it hadn't been done for a long time. So what we did is one of the training events, our team interacted with a company called Asphalt Zipper. They agreed to come out and demo their machine, and we invited 6 other municipalities from the area. And it was a training opportunity. So our team ran the machine. We ground all the asphalt in place and used that as our subgrade prep, which reduced any kind of disposal fee and removal. And then we had our on-call asphalt company come back and do a repave, an overlay. But that method allows us to use the existing asphalt as our subgrade prep moving forward. And so it reduces a couple steps in the process. Those machines are expensive, but if council has interest in that in the future, the city may benefit from joining with another municipality to have a purchase share agreement or purchasing our own. They use those machines for trenching quite a bit too. So you can run that machine and it can trench for you, so you don't have to do traditional saw cuts. You can just run that machine down the road and do a small strip, a 2-foot strip of trenching where you can drop a water line or storm line. So we're still exploring that as a means to accomplish more paving restoration within the city.
And I think it's an attachment to the backhoe, right? Bucket. Right. So 19th Avenue and Milton Way, traffic signal improvement. So the turn lane to the school. So we've added another light, and it significantly improved the traffic, mainly for the school bus turn lane.
Positive feedback from the district.
Yes, yeah, we've heard positive feedback from the school district. School bus drivers like it. So last year we replaced 3 roofs at well buildings or well houses, with replace old shingles with metal roofs. And this year we also plan to do more, but there was 3 buildings total. So that's another. So there's, yeah. So VFW memorial lights were damaged, and there was 6 lights that we replaced. Also found the original supplier who was purchased from, and we replaced them. Also, they're more efficient LED lights now. Street scan was done in the summer as well, so we've scanned all the streets around the city and came up with the PCI, it's Pavement Conditions Index. So all the roads are color coded. Red means obviously worse condition, green means better condition, and now we have a map and access to this big database where we can prioritize all the roads, which ones need more attention sooner. And maybe Dustin wants to speak on it.
Yeah. So this was a complex project, and I would love to bring this back to council and do a presentation on just street scan, the information we received from it. So they scanned all of our streets, gave us a pavement condition index, as Val said, for each section. This kind of information also supports grant requests. So we were able to get our total deficiency, which is called the city backlog. And some of those numbers are I think, in excess of what most people would think it costs to redo roads within a city. And that's not just a Milton, challenge. That's a Pierce County challenge that we talk about at TCC, which is a subset of Pierce County, the traffic control group. And it's challenging to redo the streets right now. And there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be prioritized, and that's something that Pierce County and the state legislature is wrestling with.
Okay. So TAB, so the left bottom picture shows kind of 2 stretches of road, Milton Way and Porter Way, where we replaced pavement, asphalt, as well as some 5 ADA ramps. The following pictures will show them. So there's one before and after, and this couple more before and after.
So those ramps were deficient and created liability, a potential for liability for the city. So we went through and we redid every ramp that is adjacent to the overlay project.
I think there's one more picture. Before, during, and after. So Birch Street, so there was some illegal dumping was taking place. So that was removed, properly disposed, and we've installed railing on both sides, so that prevents from illegal dumping, as well as it's a safety feature. So, yep.
And there were hundreds of tires that were dumped. So these were dump trucks that were dumping these tires, which is why we put the guardrail in. Yes.
Do we have any idea who did the dumping?
We worked with the PD, and we were not able to determine who did the dumping at that time. We've since installed cameras in that location also. That location is a known, hotspot for criminal activity. And so we now have surveillance there. We have guardrails to prohibit future dump trucks from dumping. It's not within the flood limits, but where these tires were dumped is near the high-low. So there's another reason there to protect our environmental integrity.
Would we be able to get some assistance from the state for offsetting that cost?
We were not. Yeah, we did reach out to them, and their budgets were done. This is our last project of the year. This will be the last slide of completed projects. They did not have any money to contribute.
Okay. Well, this one, so we have the next 2 slides of projects in progress. You already saw that, so started working on the community park outdoor meeting venue, and they just poured the main area slab, and I think on Thursday they will be pouring last step area. 99 and Porterway improvement. It's been a few months in construction, so it's in progress. In design, we also have Hill Tower Park. So we're working with McKay Spacito design company. Yeah, to redo this area, I think it will be done in 2 phases, right? Phase 1 and phase 2. So we're currently figuring all that out. Also, another project in design is Oak Street sidewalk slash street. Well, we call sidewalk, but it's also parking. Oak Street sidewalk, parking, and store improvements. We're working with GNO on that, and yeah, the pictures on the right shows kind of the area affected.
Yes, Councilmember Whalen.
And I want to interrupt a minute just for a question on this, but I got a question on almost every page in the presentation. So please, when you're looking at in design Oak Street sidewalks and so forth, of course, they're calling it Triangle Park, but it's not, it's the community park. The parking near the lower field, it does look like they're at a 45-degree parking.
Correct.
At the upper ball field, is that parallel park? That's not angled in parking,
That is not angled in parking. And we met with, Val and I met with them last week, and we looked at this. This was the initial design, so it will evolve from here. But we're looking at adding 40 additional stalls with this configuration. And the reason we were able to achieve that diagonal parking at the lower area is because of the grades. That upper area is, if we wanted to achieve the diagonal parking up there, there'd be a significant retaining wall that would have to be built, which would add a lot of cost to the project. And so we were trying to cut future costs while maintaining the most amount of new spaces. And so 40 is the number that we're currently working with. And yeah, there'd be parking throughout.
Can you separate when you say 40, you're talking about so many parking spots down at the lower field and so many parking spots on the upper field. On the upper field is the question, is how many parking spots is that? Question arising from the amount of parking that take place on Oak on both sides of the street, the park side and the residential side is significant. And we were always encouraged or always thought to understand that would get angled in parking to accommodate more parking spots than, I don't know if I'm seeing 8 or 9 spots, but that one is very well utilized during the baseball season and other events that take place. So it's a little bit disappointing to seeing this in the design, limiting that parking space. So just to let you know.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, well, I completely agree. Our thought there was that we were reducing costs for construction, which would make this project achievable. This project doesn't have a lot of great grant opportunities. And so it's going to have to be something that the city will have to be the primary contributor financially. And so I think maintaining or managing cost is really important in the design phase. I can ask them to give me a magnitude of cost for putting in diagonal parking at the upper field, and we could take a look at it. My hunch is that it's going to be between $500,000 to $800,000 for additional wall and grading.
It's the first point I've seen on the presentation that is a little bit surprising because it's so far away from scale of what we had originally considered and thought the design would be the angled in parking providing about twice as many spots as it does when it doesn't angle in. So, just to let you know, that'll be a continued question.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have about 3 more slides, and then we can go through any questions council may have.
Director Madden,
Yes, sir.
could you remind me when you're thinking about this project getting started? I know you told us once, I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. So this project will go through design for the next year. Then we'll be in a position to start shopping grants. And so from a construction standpoint, best case scenario, we'd be looking at summer, and maybe we can phase it. There may be things that we can do up front, down by the stage, or up by the upper field. But it would be summer of, we may be able to start some improvements summer of 2026, likely summer of 2027.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so next project in design is a 23rd Avenue sidewalk between that, the new plot and Elder Street. We're gonna install sidewalk, road widening, do road widening, and also replace water main. So that work is in design. We're actually on the end phase of the design, so it's almost completed.
There will be road widening associated with this also. I think we all know it's a narrow section of road.
Okay. So then we have a new deep well up in Edgewood. So we're working with the RH2 company, and we already did sampling, and so it's in design. Another project in design is I-5 water main crossing. We're working with the GNO to install a new water main crossing, possibly, and also electrical conduits. Because, if we're boring it under the highway, might as well install additional conduits for power.
And this would replace that water line that broke last September under I-5.
Okay.
All right, questions? We can go back on slides. Yes.
On page 30, the traffic flow improvement, what did that entail?
Is that the light?
Yeah, I guess I see one of the poles like tipping over almost. And so was it a replacement of that pole then? And on 19th Avenue,
Yep.
right in front of the school?
Let's do this. There it is. So, yeah, it's an odd angle. So what we did there is, in response to some of the feedback we received from the school district, we added a dedicated turn signal. So now buses, just going down the hill and needing to take a left into the school complex, they don't have to wait for a break in oncoming traffic.
Okay.
And so what that did is it decreased the amount of wait time for everybody behind the bus. Because what we found is drivers were getting irritated. They were driving in the opposite lane, cutting around the buses, and it just created a significant hazard for everyone. So we added an additional signal that creates a dedicated turn for those buses.
So that you don't have those problems now? Did that correct all the problems, or are we still looking at some of the same problems?
I think that with the aggressive driving traits that we see out there, we're going to continue to see problems. But I would say that this helped mitigate those issues and those frustrations.
Okay. Now, and then on the urban trail thing on page, what is that? 29. You said that equipment they just allowed you to use to just see what it was like? Is that, so we may be purchasing one of these machines? Is that the idea?
It's called a demo. So they came out and they demoed it, and to get the value, for the company to see the value in it, the city, we invited the 6 other municipalities from the surrounding area. So we had Ording, Bonnie Lake, Puyallup, Sumner, and maybe Buckley. Yeah, and Fife was there also. So we were all able to tour the equipment. Tukwila has one of these that they use quite a bit. So we were able to,
Who does?
the city of Tukwila,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Yeah, they got a lot of trails.
Yeah. So it made sense for the company to support it because they were able to demo it for essentially 6 municipalities rather than 1. And so they allowed us to use it for about a half a day at no cost.
You know, is then possibly the idea to go in a group to purchase one of these machines so that you can all use it?
Yep, that is what was discussed, and the public works directors, we meet quarterly per year, and that's an item that we're going to be discussing at the upcoming meeting.
Okay. And so how did you mitigate the roots growing through, which caused the basic problem of that? How was that addressed?
We ground through them.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you think that's going to stop the roots from coming, or are we going to be looking at the same problem and?
It will not stop the roots from going across. Those are alder, cottonwood trees in that area, and they're going to continue to encroach. The way that we would be able to stop that is dig a 24-inch trench along either side of the trail and drop down a root barrier.
Yeah.
That was not done at this time. It would be a significant expense. And so this approach, that trail, I believe, was installed in, is it 2010?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So if we can get another 15 years out of this asphalt, I think that'll be a success for the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Whalen?
Well, thank you, and I want to thank you in advance for your patience. Just a curious question, and I'm going to go from illustration and on and so forth. Just a question. On page 5 of 57, which is showing the very nice beautification of the island that is between Milton Way and Oak Street.
Yes.
I understand that Oak Street in front of Canton has always been a one-way street, and it still remains that way as a one-way street, correct? I mean, it hasn't changed for just parking in front of the businesses.
Correct.
That-
It is, that island is in right away.
Give me a moment to thumb through things and so forth. And I've got to tell you that I've seen most of these projects in the project phases in real time. And it's impressive. There's a lot of work we get done that's very impressive and managed quite well. So I'm happy with what the results are for the city and the businesses we're dealing with. They seem to be very considerate of the city. New sidewalks are always great to see. On page 11 of 57,
Yes.
garage doors look great. But for several years now, I've complained, and if you look at the signage looks horrible. Behind this building, the signages are dirty and has never been addressed, and it's come up to the council several different times in our retreats and so forth. Is there some phase that's going to take place to correct that ugly, dim, dirty signage we have, especially the light and water? Although the Milton sign also has got some problems. Is there anything in the schedule to improve that?
So in 2024, we requested quotes to convert the existing neon to an LED, which is the way the industry has gone. There's only a handful of people that still work in neon. It has some toxicity to it that is just not, I guess, easy to work with. And in today's society, plus LED has come a long way. I want to say that was around $25,000, $30,000. And so that was not pursued at that time. What you see is the paint behind the neon is what is making those signs look like that. So we could pursue a painting project this year. It would probably require taking that signage down, doing an acid bath on it, taking the existing paint off, and re-powder coating it, and then reinstalling. So we may be at a price that's close to converting to LED, but that's a project that we can explore this year.
Something to be considered for this year. Is that what I'm understanding?
At council's direction, if that is something, or the mayor's direction, we would absolutely consider it. We have our costs identified. Now it's just what budget would it come from?
They've come up on several different retreats we've had, and it's been, and I'm not sure, I'm not going to answer for everyone, but I think anybody who took the time to look at this, the nice change we did with the lower doors and so forth, we have this remaining. And to beautify the back of a building that few people see is important, just the same as we've done with all the buildings in the front here and where we've managed and kept them. This is kind of the last unkept area of the building. So I'm a proponent of having that done as soon as possible, and I have for the last 4 or 5 years. And you got to give me a minute to go through this and so forth, because we did stop at every page and so forth. What was done in the Mac Center has come out great. It really has. And I don't know who's been in there during the process of changing and so forth. It's great. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm going through these because I've got a few notes on it and so forth. I just have a question and so forth. On page 16 of 57, the accordion walls and so forth, that gives us an opportunity for storage and movement of things and so forth to a greater extent than we've had before. It's not limiting that space for the public when appropriate, but we've greatly improved our storage area and management area in that center. And that's probably a bigger change than you think. It's a great change. The lighting at the, let me see how, sports court,
Yes.
it's made a great change. I've known folks that live in the particular area when it first went in and so forth that had some concern about it, appropriately so because of the brightness, but the changes have been very good. But I also have another question because in the sports court, there are some, well, I'm sorry. In the community park, there's been several concerns for the last, well, since it's been installed, about safety hazards and safety concerns. And I don't see anything in this addressing that. I don't see it projected for this year. I don't see anything that reflects it from last year, other than events that we did replace some lights. But I was told it was dangerous.
Oh, the 9/11 memorial?
Yes, the 9/11 memorial.
So Val is working on that project. We're looking at the 3D sculptures and translating those onto a 2D plaque that can be at grade. Those recommendations are going to go to the park board this month. And then once park board has had a chance to endorse it, it'll come to council for final approval.
I'm glad to hear that. I just wasn't current with that information, so thank you very much on that.
Yes. And Val is actually also going to the site, so he's going to do a day trip and in New York and look at the actual structure. And we're going to use any kind of feedback that he can glean from that process and incorporate it here.
Referencing the ball field renovation and so forth, page 25 of 57. It seems very expensive, but what I've seen done on it and what I've seen other places do, it was quite necessary. See the fact that that field is being used, say, our Melton Days events and so forth, it gets a lot of wear, it gets a lot of pressure on it, so. I don't remember being aware of that from last year and so forth, but it's a very good replacement.
Yeah, that is a hard project to kind of time also with seed germination and use with Fife, Milton, Edgewood soccer clubs. But we were able to accomplish it.
Yes, and It's a good change and so forth. The playground repairs, absolutely. We put our children at risk if we don't, and it's a very good thing to do. On your interurban trail asphalt replacement, very good, nice piece of equipment, but it's too small of any type of equipment to do road repair per se. It's good for walking paths and so forth, but it's not a good piece of equipment for road repairs, which we have a lot in town that we need to do. So I don't know in the future if we're going to look for something that can do both, one or the other.
They make different sizes of grinding decks. I believe this was a 72-inch, and it took us 3 passes to get the 10-foot. So we could do some street repairs, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I asked this question because it was about 3 years ago, I believe, we did the trenches along 13th. Is it 3 years now? Because it's growing back quite a bit. For the first year or year and a half, it was great because the road has no crown in it, but it was relieving the water on the east side where the trenches are. And we, on the other side of the road, weren't impacted as much by off-road flow to the downhill side. That's all now disappeared. The grass is growing up. It doesn't allow the water from the road to run to the east and down into the water trenches, the way it's supposed to be designed and maintained. Do we have anything in the future to consider how we're going to manage those types of things? It's not the only road in town that this occurs.
Yes, we do. We've got Public Works has at its disposal a capital project for trenching and ditching. And so we use that budget, which is allocated by council, to put down mats, clean out, I guess, infiltration trenches that have either grown up or some type of environmental change has caused a different movement of the water. And so we'll use that budget to go around and improve our storm system throughout the city.
And the reason I do bring it up is I don't want to see us spending money offhand, some other company to come in and do that only lasts 3 years.
We do all of that work in-house.
Good, thank you. The traffic light on Milton Way and 19th. Let's just talk about the left-hand turn signal light, the caution light or stop light as it might be, has improved that intersection significantly.
Good.
In both speed of traffic, or I should say movement of traffic, is much better than it used to be because that lane would get blocked because you couldn't make a turn. Now it's a caution turn if you have to do it. Very good, very good. Very appreciative.
That was a great project with significant improvements with a fairly low cost threshold. We appreciate council's support, and we worked with Transpo on that project, and also the school district was very supportive.
And with the future changes that are coming in light management, stop management and so forth, it's going to improve even that much greater.
A task order, just for councils, this isn't part of this, but a task order has been approved, and Transpo is going to start making recommendations. They gave me 6 weeks as a deliverable date from today, where they're going to make physical change recommendations to Emerald and Taylor. So that will be coming back to council in likely April.
The street scan that we did and so forth, and I'm looking at a small, you might say, gradient here, picture and so forth, and I take it, the green in the picture on page 3457 of 57, green is probably okay, yellow's questionable, and red is not acceptable. Is that a fair way to analyze that picture?
Yes.
Yeah.
That map does not, that map does not represent accurately because we already updated, like, Fifth Avenue pavement was replaced, so we updated that score already, as well as portion of Porter and Milton. So we have ability to update in that program ourselves.
Excellent, because the use of this particular picture and use of current standards as we build or fix or repair and so forth, we can see how much we've progressed using this. It's a strong tool, and it's something that we can use visually to communicate how we're succeeding in repairing.
Yes, it helps us prioritize corridors, repairs. And as Val said, we're able to update these street sections that we've made improvements on, which brings up our overall PCI.
Milton Way's improvements has been very good. Very good, both pedestrian and traffic. And fixed a lot of line of sight issues that we were fighting for a couple of years in different particular areas. So if you look at page 38 of 57, which is the corner of Main, I believe, in Milton Way, that crossing has improved greatly. And the stripes are in the right place in the road. I was always kidding about when the temporaries went in. It worked out very well. Page 39 of 57, it's exceedingly disappointed that we have to spend $5,000 for tire removal. Now, $5,000 is not a lot of money today, but it's $5,000. If everything we've done here and so forth reduces that significantly, that's worth the investment. Guardrail is worth the investment in this particular area also. I've got to go through each one because we didn't stop at each one and so forth. Hill Tower Park, the design changes are excellent. You know, we've been trying to do that for I can't tell you how many years. It's probably been high on the target list for the last dozen years to commit to do something that will enhance that. So
Yes, Hill Tower Park and where the community building is will be our top priorities for park improvements over the next few years. And also securing grants to help us pay for those improvements.
yeah, I'm anxious to see what the east side of 15th at the community park looks like without the building. It's you know, I don't know when that might be done and so forth, but that's I'm anxious to see that, and that's about what I have to say. And I could go on for another 15 minutes, but I think I'd like to hear everybody else.
Does anybody else have any comments, questions, input? Councilmember Hall?
On the tire disposal, last month's, expenditures we saw, I saw significant more for that. Is it including another?
For just the disposal?
Yeah.
Actually, well, I guess I would have to look to see if, I know the company that we use, Liberty Tire, I think was the name of the company. It's funny you should say that. That check was lost in the mail and we just had to void it today and reissue it. And there was only one check issued to that company in 2024 and it was for about $5,000.
Okay, so it was an error. Okay, I had highlighted, I was going to give it to you. Okay, thank you.
And we were able to keep those costs mitigated by our team pulled all of those tires out, put them in our dump trucks, and then we transferred them into a storage container that we had in our yard. So that was how we're able to control costs.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strader?
On the chairs, what happened to the old chairs?
They were, that's a great question. I'll have to check in with our team. So they may be in storage or transferred, or we may have disposed of some of them that were
I was
damaged.
going to say, I don't remember seeing anything being to put those into surplus yet. And so I was thinking that perhaps, possibly to keep the few of the best ones for if we ever had an overflow of more than 130 something chairs. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the new ones also, they've got an additional weight limit of 1,000 pounds, so it's a significant improvement
Yeah.
I know the PD likes them. You guys got some also, so it creates a uniformness throughout
Yeah, they
our chair
certainly
supply.
look a lot better
Yes.
than those old ones. Yes, thank you. That's it.
I do like all the improvements to the Mac. That is fantastic. It's amazing to me what just a coat of paint will do. But I really like the floor and redoing the oak floor and the floor in the entryway. That's genius. Because, yeah, you can easily just, they have similar flooring at the karate school that they're interlocking. And, oh yeah, it's fantastic. You have one that, that rips or, fails, you just take that out and replace it. It's a beautiful material. So I commend you for laying that down there. That's well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was amazing to be able to accomplish so many projects this last year, and it was with council and the mayor's support, and Val, having him on board, really allowed us to maximize our deliverables. So it was a good year.
Yeah. Anyone else have any? All right. I can't say that this is going to come back at a future meeting because unless you want to do it again sometime.
Next year, we'll talk about 25.
Okay, next year. I'll see you next year. So now we'll move on to our second and last agenda item. It's 3B. The first read of ordinance 2106-25, a budget amendment, and I'll turn the floor over to Interim Director Robeck.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The proposed ordinance provides adjustments to the 2025 budget as adopted by the City Council in December of 2024. This is the first ordinance amending the 2025 budget and reflects changes that have occurred since adoption of the original budget. These adjustments are detailed in the accompanying exhibits and include a TIB grant and a change to the wage scale to reinstate a third police sergeant position and defund 2 police corporal positions. In 2021, the city created 2 corporal positions within the PD. These positions were created to address new demands of the Washington State Legislative action related to police reforms that went into effect in 2021. In 2024, the laws changed again to allow more departmental discretion. By defunding the 2 corporal positions, officers can focus on patrolling the city rather than administrative tasks. The additional sergeant position will provide direct supervision and support to field operations more effectively and address the department's growing need for experienced leadership in patrol oversight. The proposed reorganization aims to increase the efficiency of the department by reducing the burden of certain supervisory duties, allowing officers to focus on critical crime work, thereby better protecting and serving Milton residents. Does anyone have any questions about either of this budget amendment, either the wage scale change or the TIB grant change? Councilmember,
Go ahead, Councilman Strader. Sorry.
It just doesn't seem like this long ago that the chief came to us with proposing corporal positions, and I'd like to know just a little more about what was the reason for this change.
Well, it was a reaction to the police reform that was going on at the time, and it was in September of 2021 that we created the 2 corporal positions, which changed in 1016.060 RCW. The law now allows for officers to pursue the suspects if they have reasonable suspicion that the suspect has committed a crime. The law allows officers to pursue suspects if the pursuit is necessary to identify or apprehend the suspect. The law now allows officers to pursue suspects if the suspect poses a serious risk of harm to others. So some of the things that we've done is, again, we're always auditing department efficiency and effectiveness. And so I would like to bring back the 3rd sergeant position. We currently have 6 very new officers. We have 3 entry-level officers that have less than a year of experience. And one of the things that we've also done, again, is myself and the assistant chief are going to supervise day shift operations. And we're going to move the sergeants to swing shift to provide greater coverage. The other thing is we took a really close look at the RCW 10-16-060 regarding vehicle pursuit, and we looked at some of the language that's used in that law, and it talks about supervising officer. It doesn't specify that it has to be a sergeant or a corporal. And so we looked at other jurisdictions to see what they were doing. And so one of the things that we've also done, and we've talked with the guilds and so forth, and we amended our policy and we created a OIC positions so that if in the absence of a supervisor, the most senior officer can act as the officer in charge. And so we've added that to our chain of command and also to fill the gap, so to speak, on that vehicular pursuit requirement. So that's why I've come back and asked council to change it back to the way that it was. And then we're looking at a fiscal impact of about $15,000 to the police department if we were to defund the 2 corporal positions and add the sergeant's position back. And so having a conversation with Director Roebuck here, we've determined that we should not have to amend the police department budget and that we should be able to absorb that cost into our current existing budget.
Okay, I see. So the OIC position, you're calling that to initially take in, if you're absent a sergeant, you're going to replace that with that position. And why are you calling it that versus acting sergeant? Is there something to do with wages?
We get into a collective bargaining agreement issues. Right now, this is the agreement that we've come to with the guild, that they've agreed that they're willing to do the OIC in the absence of a sergeant or a supervisor such as myself or the assistant chief.
Okay, so yeah, basically they are going to get a wage increase for taking on that added responsibility. Is that correct?
Currently, they're not asking for that.
Oh, they're
And
not.
they did not request an MOU or anything like that. We've explained to them what we were trying to do, and they said that they understand.
Wow, that's good news. Thank you. Yeah, that answers that.
Councilmember Hall.
So the OIC, will they be trained like a supervisor? Is this
We will
something
provide
like
them a
they
cert-
work toward?
All of our officers are trained on the legalities of engaging in a pursuit, but the OIC will not just be for pursuits. It's in the absence of a supervisor. And OIC has been around since I've been around and prior, and most police officers, it either has been OIC, officer in charge, most senior officer, because they've got the most experience so they can make decisions, or in some departments, they call them master police officers or master deputies or whatever, or deputy in charge.
Councilmember Cedar.
So I'm trying to understand, so we're getting rid of the 2 corporal positions and adding a sergeant and adding an officer?
No.
So-
Those corporals, which right now there would only be one individual impacted because the other one promoted into the sergeant's position that we had with Sergeant Hume retiring. And then, so
Yeah, so it's still, so I guess the problem I have that I'm seeing right here is when we approved the 2025 budget, it stated 8 officers. My understanding is that it's still supposed to be 8 officers, but this document has it changed to 9 officers. I don't know where that comes from. I don't see any indication in it. Perhaps it's a Scrivener's error, but it's not correct if that's the situation.
on the police sergeant, it shows 3, and then on the corporal, it shows 2. So we're not netting or increasing any more officers. We're still maintaining the same amount of officers, other than that corporal position, again, is not a permanent position. So if those positions are filled, then that extra level of compensation is given to an officer. So our officer count stays the same. So if you look, correct?
So,
Yeah,
so let me, yeah, maybe I'm using different terminology. I see three categories in our, assuming that we go through with this and we get rid of the corporal position, we would have the positions of police officer, police sergeant, and detective.
correct.
When we approved the 2025 budget, that included, under the title police officer, 8. But this now has 9. So are we're not, the total
Because-
number of officers in your department is 14.
Correct.
Is this going to retain that number of officers at 14?
Yes.
Total employees.
So we are, so we're not, when we say I'm just trying to be clear about what we're doing. And I don't care if this is what we're doing, right? It's not a gotcha moment, but there's no mention in here of increasing our officers' numbers under the police officer line item, and that's clearly what we're doing. And that's
No.
frustrating to me.
No.
I don't know how it's not, because when I look at the 2025 budget, the wage scale says 8 police officers, but this one, in the budget amendment number 1, says 9 officers. So I'm trying to connect those dots.
The way that I understand it is that one corporal position is being eliminated. That slides into the sergeant, so now you have 3 sergeant. The remaining corporal, who goes back to an officer, goes back, and now you're at 9.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get at, because that move, the way it's written, and I think that probably it needs to be changed in the ordinance. The way the ordinance reads, at least in my opinion, is that, hey, we're getting rid of 2 corporals and we're adding a sergeant. Right? It doesn't say we're also adding an officer. Again, it's fine, but it's really not clear. And I had to dig back through the budget to find that, because even in the red line version, it doesn't show that it used to say 8, and it just has it changed to 9. So, yeah, I recommend that be a little bit more transparent when it comes up for action, just so we're clear that we are not changing the number of officers in our police department, which is remaining at 14, which is great. It's a great number.
So
Thank
maybe just adding a whereas underneath that says, with the defunding of these positions, the original amount of officers that were originally authorized in the 2025 budget will remain the same.
Yeah, and I think that's an important note, because I think, at least when I read this, I was like, wow, we're about to cut a police officer, which is not something I think our public
The average
would
bear
appreciate.
might read it and interpret that we're getting rid of 2 positions and not staying the same.
I certainly read it that way.
Right.
I don't mean to come across frustrated. I just, I really wanted to get to this point.
Well, that's why we bring them to the discussion sessions. We'll fix that.
Yeah, yes, we will fix the ordinance.
So the intent is to amend it as read, that I just recited
no.
back to you.
Completely understand. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Finance Manager. Director.
Did you, Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. I want to try to create a simple question. What we were required to do back in 2021 from the state legislature and so forth about how they thought police departments should operate. To a lesser degree now, we have more of our own, you might say, strength of saying what we need in a department. What was what was directed from the state of Washington has slid down back in 2021. State legislation was being very heavy-handed on police departments and dictating to them what you need to do and what you need to do with the staffing. So we've been relieved of that arduous burden.
Not, no, not completely.
Not complete, but
We've just trying to deal with these unfunded mandates that come down. We took a better look at our department and said structurally, makes more sense to have a sergeant. We've got all these newer officers. We worked with the guild to say, hey, how do you feel about this OIC language? And would you be willing to do it? And they agreed. And so that's where we are today.
and you truly believe, and as I do also, the efficiency of the department is going to improve.
Well, I would always like to have more people, but I'm trying to make do with what I got.
Yeah, but who you have, the efficiency, and how do you utilize the people now is a little bit more in tune with our police department and what we do.
Well, sergeants are more trained than a corporal. With corporals, we do give them training, but it's limited. And then we have them correcting reports and so forth. And so when we look at time management and things like that, we feel that their time could be better served out on the street patrolling rather than correcting reports. And so we're going to kick that back to the sergeants. And then as far as supervision, myself and Assistant Chief we're going to manage the day shift as supervisors.
No, I support this. Thank you.
Anyone else? This will come back this coming council meeting, and we will come up for a second read. Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody who's watching this online, who is here. Thank you for Director Stallnecker, who's sitting off to the side, Director Robeck and the Chief, and seeing that all agenda items have been concluded, I adjourn this meeting at 5:08.